Hi everyone, welcome back to the C++ tutorial series. Just tell me in the comments, has my voice become heavier or is it the same, okay? But anyways, today we are going to look at a concept known as arrays. So first let's actually remove all this from the last episode. This is a calculator by the way. So I'll just remove that. And we are going to talk about arrays. So arrays are basically your I'll just zoom in, right? Arrays are basically variables, right, which can store multiple values. So these can become useful when you don't know how many variables you need. For example, you want to store many names, so you can do this. You can do std string, right, and you can say name1, and you can actually create multiple of these, right? So this is going to be name 2, name 3, name 4. Now this is one way to do things, and it can be practical in situations when you have like 5 names. But what if you have like 100 names? Not so practical now, eh? In these cases we can use concepts known as arrays to really streamline the process, if I say so. Also, my IntelliSense is not working, I don't know why. So I will just restart my editor. Okay, it's now finally working like it should work. So let's just remove that. And let's now create an array. Alright, now let's learn about the syntax of arrays. So let's begin a comment and let's look at the syntax. So firstly we give them my pencils. Okay, so here what we'll do is we will firstly give it the type. So this can be an int, a float, a string, a double, whatever you want, just a type, any type. We can then give the name. So we can give the name of the array. So this name can be something like, oh my god. Alright, so this, oh my god. So this name can be something like, I don't know, levels or names or genders or something like that. So basically it's a list. So this will be the name of the array basically. Then we give these brackets, these large brackets, to indicate that this is an array. So this is basically defining a normal variable, and then this tells C++ that this is supposed to be an array. And then we obviously end this with a semicolon. Let's now actually see this in action. Let's create a string array this time. So std string, and let's name it names. Let's give the large brackets and let's end it with a semicolon. So now you may notice these red squiggles, which means that there's an error here. So it tells me that incomplete type is not allowed and local variable is not initialized. Now let's fix these one by one. So let's fix the first one first. And the thing is that it shows me this error because in C++ you have to actually give an array an initial size. So for example, I want this to be an array of 100 names. If you have done Visual Basic, it's kind of like that. So for example, I can just say 100 and you can see the error goes away. This is because basically in C++ it's a static language, right? So you have to actually give it how many elements does this array need to be able to store. So the array can store less names than 100, but it cannot store more names than 100. Now this can be sometimes annoying to work with, the static size, because sometimes, and actually most of the times, you don't know the definite size of an array, right? So what you can do is you can actually choose the maximum number based on like an assumption. So if you think a user will not enter more than 500 names, you can just give a 500 here, right? And if you think a user will not enter more than 100 names, you can just give a 100. So that's actually how you work with these static sizes. Now let's actually see how to work with these arrays. So first thing you need to understand is the concept of indexes, right? So right now I'm just going to make this a small array, like with 5 names. So I'll just set it equal to a list of names. Now you don't need to understand this right now, I will explain it in this video, but just give me a second. I'm just basically initializing this array. I'm storing 5 names inside this array basically. So I'll just store like 5 names. Okay, there we go. We have our 5 names, right, which are very generic, but yeah, we'll work with them. So indexes. So what happens is that in C++ and in most of the programming languages, counting actually starts from 0. So you are basically using whole numbers, right? So what we'll do is we'll try to access a specific element of this array first, right? So let's try to access the first element. So we know that counting starts from 0. So what we can do is we can firstly print, so cout, right? And we can print names. And again, to access an element, right, you need to use these large brackets. So inside these large brackets you can just put whatever index you want to access. In my case it's the first index, or we are starting with whole numbers, right? So the index 0. If I try to run this, right, you'll see that it prints out the first item in this list. You can actually do this as 1. I can run this and it prints out the second item in the list. That's pretty cool. And you can actually also print out the entire list. It will print it actually it will print it like this. So we'll not actually talk about that just yet. We'll talk about that in future when we look at pointers. But right now you need to understand, when you try to print an entire array, it basically gives you this number which shows you at what location this array basically is stored in the memory. So you can't actually print an entire array like directly in C++, like this, okay? So let's just stick with indexes right now. So you can do this. You also have this, right? Let's try to print the last index. So this is the 5th item or the 4th index. So if you have like the 5th item you want to access, you basically subtract 1 from it. So 5 minus 1 and you get 4, and you put 4 here. So when you run it, it should give you human, right? You can also use variables instead of 4. So let's try using that. Let's create an int which is named index. I'll set it to like 3, which again, index 3 means the 4th item, which is going to be person, right? Just remember that. So we'll copy index here, right, like that. So now what we're doing is we are using the value of this variable here, right? So let's run this, and there we go, it prints out person. So you can actually change this number and it will kind of act the same. So 4 for human and etc. But the real reason to use a variable is mainly because with a variable you can actually take an input, right? So you can do cin, and for all the nerds out there, you may be like, hey, use getLine. This is just a tutorial, okay? Alright, this is just a tutorial. So let's use stdcin to take the input from the user. Anyways, we have this. So now let's actually run this, and let's enter some index. For example, let's enter index I don't know, 2, and look at that, it prints out girl. So remember, counting starts from 0. So basically this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. So we print the second index, right there. Now let's actually look at how you can edit the array, right? So to edit the array, And again, this is C++, so you cannot add an element, because that will actually violate this static rule. So it will actually have to resize the array, which is not possible in C++. It's C++, you have to deal with it. So but what you can do is you can actually change these individual values. So let's say I want to set the names 0, so I want to set the first name to something else, such as like Emma, right? What this does is, now here at this point, I'm going to remove the cin actually, just for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to remove these variables like that. So we are setting the 0th name, or the first name basically, to Emma. Now let's actually try to print names 0 again. So I'm firstly printing the first name, and then I'm changing the first name, and then I'm printing the first name again. Let's try that. So look at that. Now I have not used a /n or new line, so it kind of is squished together. But you can see that it first prints out this, right? And it prints out Saket. Then I edit the name, and then it edits the name, and then after, when I print it out, it prints out the new name, right? So that's how it works. So the flow basically works from top to bottom, right? So you can actually edit like other names as well. You can edit the second index, the third name basically. You can experiment with this how much you like. Basically, I really recommend you experiment with this, try to create some cool stuff. Basically that's arrays, right? That's the basic array functionality. But before I end the video, I would like to show you one more thing, which is the size of an array. Again, this is C++, but for these arrays you can use the size of. So this is actually not a kind of a function, this is a keyword. This is a keyword. So size of is a keyword that basically shows you the size of any variable in memory. So how much size does that variable take in memory? So if I say size of names, and let's print this, right? And I'm going to comment these lines. I don't want them to be printed right now. Now when we try to actually run this, we get this number 200, which is not what you expect. There are like 5 items here. It prints out 200. That's weird, I understand, but the reason why it's printing this is because in C++, size of basically returns the amount of bytes this array or this variable is taking up in memory. So basically this variable or array is taking up 200 bytes of memory in your memory, right, in your RAM. So how do we actually get the actual size of the array? So remember that we actually made this as a string array. So size of can actually also return the size of some data type such as string. So if you try to run this, look at that, it's 40. So what you can do is you can use some basic math here. So names, size of names divided by size of standard string, right? Now this basically means that we are taking the size of names and dividing it by the size of a string. So we know that size of names returns the size of 5 strings, because the size of this array is 5. So size of one string, someone messaged me on Discord, I'll see it later. So size of names, we divided by size of string, and we get the size of basically we get how many strings are in this particular array. So we are using math like this because one basically the size of names returns 200, which is the size of 5 strings, right, like that. So basically we initialize this array with 5 items. So the size of names it returns to be 200, which is the size of one string is 40, so 40 into 5 is 200. Now that's why I'm just reversing that. I'm just dividing it by 40, which is size of string. So you can also put 40 here, but it's better to actually use this because of some compiler stuff. But if we run this now, right, you'll see that yay, we have 5. Let's go. So this is actually how you get the size of a specific array. So assume if I was to make this int. Now of course these are not integers, so it shows me like kind of an error. And it's, what do you mean kind of? It is an error, it's a proper error. But if, just for demonstration, if you have an int array, so you have to actually use size of int like this instead of size of string. And just for information, the size of one single int is 4 bytes. So that was it for this video. If you liked it, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Someone is messaging me on Discord. I have to also attend my classes, so I'll see you in the next one. And in the next video we'll look at a better alternative to arrays, but that's for the next video. I'll see you there, and for now I'm out.